So it's been a while since I've done a rose-themed video, and I've got one for you today. And since it's almost Mother's Day here in a few days, this is the perfect video for you if you're looking for a Mother's Day gift featuring the note of rose. But I'm talking about rose fragrances from within the last couple of years, and I've got 6 fragrances in this list. It's a ranked list. Find out about them coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Sebastian, talking to you about some more recent rose fragrance launches, and I'm ranking them here in this video. We've got several from last year, 2 from last year, and the rest of them are from this year so far. So there's been quite a few rose fragrances that have launched, and I've kind of been bored of rose lately, but I'm kind of circling back. I think IMPADIA, there's the KAYALI, there's the FLEUR, and those fragrances have kind of reignited my interest in rose, and I want to kind of dig into rose fragrances a little further. But I was looking around to see what kind of rose fragrances launched. Not many launched, except for some of these, and there might be a few fragrances missing. I've got 6 here I'm going to talk to you about. Let's get started with number 6. Going to the house of Tom Ford. It is Rose Exposed. So this used to be called Rose-On-Rose-Co, launched about 3 years ago, then, shelved, discontinued because of certain reasons, and it was brought back as Rose Exposed. Now, I don't know why I didn't react so negatively to the original Rose-On-Rose-Co that I have reacted to Rose Exposed, but something must have changed in the chemistry in this, but I quite don't like this offering, unfortunately. But for me, I find it to be a bit polarizing. Some people like it, but many people don't like it. And it's quite charred, burned, smoky take on like an animalic leather with rose. And when I want a rose fragrance, I want rose to be the star. And here, I feel like some of the other notes are competing with the rose. So they don't really give me this bright rose experience. And the color of the bottle should kind of give you a clue, but I would actually make it much darker, smokier in comparison to this color, because I don't even get this color from smelling Rose Exposed. But let me know if you're a fan of Rose Exposed. Let me know if you don't like it. The fragrance features notes of Rose-On-Rose-Co-Distillation, white pepper, black leather accord. Those are the notes that they claim that this features. And again, if I want rose, I want to smell rose. And even though I get rose here, it is overshadowed by the leather and the smoky, peppery touches. Yeah, this is not something I crave to wear. But again, it has some fans. It does have some fans. It's quite spicy. There is a freshness about it. There's not a lot of warmth here, unfortunately. Quite leathery, uber leathery, and smoky as well. And I definitely get the animalic qualities here. So again, it's ranked here at number 6. You might be a fan of it. Let me know. Let me know if you've reacted negatively to this fragrance versus the original fragrance, Rose-On-Rose-Co. Again, I don't know what happened. I didn't hate the previous edition, so I think that maybe the formula must have changed. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't like this version, and I didn't mind the previous version. So add a comment below and let me know if this is a reaction that you've experienced with Rose Exposed in comparison to Rose-On-Rose-Co. But at number 5, it's the latest KAYALI fragrance. It's FLEUR Majesty Rose Royale 31. I like this more than Rose Exposed, but I don't like it as much as the next fragrances after it. I feel like, once again, it's a fruity floral fragrance, and I wanted more rose once again. And I don't get the rose as much as some of the other notes that are in here. And I don't know, it's not one of my favorite KAYALI fragrances, unfortunately. There's a lot of fruity notes here, and I also get a lot of violet candy effect happening here for sure. So they're kind of overshadowing the rose note in here. And since I've got the name rose in the name of the fragrance, the word rose in the name of the fragrance, I kind of wanted more rose. But don't get me wrong, the rose is there. But when I wear this fragrance, the couple times I wore it and tested it out, I get a makeup effect with a fruitiness in there. So I think the combination of the rose with the violet gives me a slight lipstick effect, and also, overdose with fruits. So it's not your traditional style of fragrance from the house of KAYALI. There's several that I like from the house, although I think it does match the brand and the kind of fragrances they release. It's just not my favorite offering from the house, but I just wanted a little bit more rose. But I like the brightness and easier accessibility of this in comparison to Rose Exposed. And going back to Tom Ford, I love Tom Ford fragrances. Within the last couple of years, I think a lot of their fragrances have been duds. Tom Ford had some great rose fragrances. In fact, one of my favorite fragrances from Tom Ford is Noir de Noir. That is one of the best dark rose fragrances. But with Rose Exposed, I mean, I don't know why they re-released it. They should have shelved it and gave us something a little bit brighter. Because at one time, Tom Ford's fragrances were super sexy. Like Noir de Noir, I find it to be super sexy, but here it's not. But then going back to the KAYALI, it's completely the opposite of what Rose Exposed is. But still, I'm craving a little bit more rose, especially since we've got the name Rose Royale. But the fragrance features notes of Mandarin, Pear, Peach, there's Magnolia, Peony, Rose Centifolia, Violet Wood, Vetiver, Vanilla, Praline, Musk, Ambrox, Super. So it does get sweet and ambery, slightly gourmand when the dry down. But for me, it's quite fresh and a violet candy effect is happening here. Also, the fact that it's combined with the rose, giving me a bit of a makeup lipstick effect. So that is FLEUR Majesty Rose Royale 31. Let me know your thoughts on that one if you've sampled it. Alrighty, next fragrance, we're going to the house of FLEUR. This is the fourth. It's a ranked list, by the way. This is Rose Whip. So I kind of like the fragrances of this house. I shouldn't say I kind of. There are several that I really enjoy, like Tangerine Boy is really great, and a few others I enjoy. This one I actually liked, but then it reminds me of Delina. So I can see their inspiration of Delina, and I think if a fragrance becomes popular, what are they going to do? Trying to imitate the success of the other more popular fragrance. And I'm not saying this is identical. For me, when I was testing it out, it's a bit more, although I do find Delina to be tart, this has a lot of tartness, and I like that about the fragrance. I like tart fragrances for some strange reason. I also consider tart fragrances to work against heat. It kind of gives me a balance of some sorts. That's my Libra side of my sign. But it does give me a lot of Delina vibes, but giving it a bit more of a bubblegummy effect happening, if that makes sense. Let me know if you guys get the bubblegum. So it kind of creates a bit more of a young and playful energy. And I'm not saying Delina is not. It is quite young because of the fruitiness in that fragrance, but I felt like Rose Whip seems a bit more young because I got the bubblegummy effect happening. But the notes breakdown for Rose Whip is rose, pink pepper, cashmere wood, there's black currant, osmanthus, nutmeg, amber, and musk. So it is quite musky because we've got a pretty prominent cashmere wood note. It's very rosy. The rose is there. It is the star here. And rose and pink pepper together, I find them to be a match made in heaven. They work really great. And I think that the work is quality, but I'm so familiar with Delina, it totally reminds me of Delina. And so you've got that going for it. I think it's much less expensive than Delina, although this is a 50 ml. Delina is, I don't have the bottle with me. I think it's a 75 ml or 80 ml, something like that. So the price tag is different. And for me, also, Rose Whip's performance was pretty decent. I wouldn't call it beast mode, but I like its loudness when you first spray it and its projection and things like that. So I felt like it was fun that way, but it does scream a little bit younger and a bit more playful, a bit more girly, even though we're talking about Mother's Day here. Mother's Day, and this is not a Mother's Day list. It's more of a rose list, but I felt like could be a perfect fragrance for a younger mother who's into rose. Let me know if you're familiar with Rose Whip, if you've sampled it, what are your thoughts on it? And are you a fan of the brand FLEUR? Would you like me to do another video on the house? I do have one video that I did a while ago. It's been quite a while. Maybe it's time for me to do an updated video on the brand FLEUR. But heading over to the brand BDK, and I did a review of this one earlier this week. This is IMPADIA. So speaking of Delina, and I mentioned in that video, I don't get the Delina vibes in this one. I get more of a Guidance vibe. Delina, Guidance, created by the same perfumer, Canton Biche. This is not created by Canton Biche. This is created by Jordi Fernandez. But I quite like it. I like the way it smells. Once again, I find it to be a bit younger than Guidance because we're comparing it to Guidance. For me, I don't get the Delina qualities. I mean, in fact, if I get Delina from Rose Whip, I get nothing similar to IMPADIA. They don't smell alike at all. But for me, Rose Whip reminds me of Delina, and BDK's IMPADIA reminds me of Guidance. But this is, once again, a younger take on something like Guidance or the fragrance Guidance, I find the Guidance to be a lot more complex and a bit more mature in comparison to IMPADIA. IMPADIA is also an easier to wear rose fragrance in comparison to the complexity of Guidance. But IMPADIA features notes of Turkish and Bulgarian rose. There's orange flower here, akigala wood, vanilla, pear, sandalwood, mandarin, and bergamot. So it's juicy and fruity up top, very pulpy from the pears, juiciness, and then it becomes very rosy because the roses, the two types of rose here basically are the star of the show. And then of course you go into the base and it becomes a bit sweet and vanillic, and akigala wood in this, and the pear and the rose, similar to Guidance, is what's giving me the Guidance vibes. But I like this one, definitely. I enjoy it. It's an easy to wear rose fragrance, but definitely not my number one favorite. So BDK's IMPADIA is at number 3. And speaking of Guidance, I've got Guidance 46 here at the second spot here in this list. Number 2 favorite rose fragrance. And these are the only rose fragrances I had in the collection launched within the last couple of years. As I was saying, I've gotten bored of rose. But here, Guidance 46 to me is far superior than the original Guidance. But it is also a lot more expensive than the Guidance, the original. Price-wise, it's very, very expensive. But what I like about it is I felt Guidance did lean on the feminine side, even though I enjoyed it. Here, I felt like they made it a bit more masculine. Even though it's a rose fragrance, it's quite ambery. The akigala wood, ambrette, and amber notes in here are amplified. So it's a lot more complex than IMPADIA or Guidance. Just really intense, and I really love the way the fragrance smells. I like the combination of the hazelnuts coming in. It's a very unique smell, and I don't get Delina from Guidance or Guidance 46 whatsoever. It's a completely different fragrance. Now, if I strip away notes, but those notes are getting in the way, so they're kind of crossing it out. But if I strip away notes, it might kind of come down to a skeleton of Delina. But for me, I find this one quite unique. It's a unique fragrance style or creation from Quentin Biche, even though probably he started with the bones of Delina and created something different, adding like the smoky notes and the unique notes that are in here, like the nutty notes. There's also bitter almonds here, and so forth. But what I like about this version of Guidance 46 in comparison, as I said, its thickness, it's a lot more dense, it's a lot longer lasting, reminding you of Guidance, but taking it into a more intense amber direction. So that's number 2, Guidance 46. Let me know if you're familiar with that. And my number 1 rose fragrance from the last couple of years happens to be Hermès Oud Alezan. Have you guys gotten your nose on this one yet? So I actually wore this today once again, today before I'm shooting this video. I got compliments, but it was somebody I know. They said the fragrance is pretty strong. It was projecting off of me. And they did mention that it did give them some Portrait of a Lady vibes. Maybe that's why I love this one. I love this because it's the first eau de parfum that Hermès collection has launched. But it's an oud. You pick up the oud. It's an easy to wear oud. It's a Western oud. You've got that kind of mustiness, that's almost like moldy kind of characteristic of oud wood in here, but it's so nicely, smoothly blended with the roses that are in here, the rose notes. And for me, I get tons of patchouli in this. It's really prominent, so it gives me a bit of black oud characteristic or vibes, black oud from Montal, so it's got all that going for it. And I felt like Christine Nagel did a great job. I know they were a bit late launching an oud fragrance. It's launched last year. But I think she gave us something very refined, very smooth. There's a creamy undertone as well, creamy smoothness. Everything is just blended perfectly. It's what I like about it. And it's got great trail. Longevity is great. I'm not saying it's thick and dense like Guidance 46, but as far as the smell goes, it's super sexy. But what they have going in here for notes-wise is exceptional oud, rose hydrolat, rose oxide. But of course, I'm getting spicy touches. There's definitely lots of spices in here. Nondescript spices with a bit of freshness. So I wouldn't call this like a very warm fragrance. And of course, the patchouli vibes. I'm getting tons of patchouli vibes. But what makes this different than Portrait of a Lady, there's not much fruitiness in here, although sometimes rose comes off a bit fruity, but it's a super sexy release. I think it's a great release, even though we're late with the oud craze. I think Hermès doing an oud so many years after everybody else did it. But maybe they waited and gave us something really quality, because I really, really think this is a great fragrance. The way it sprays on, the way you wear it, It's fantastic. I love it. So my number one favorite rose fragrance within the last couple of years of the ones that I have is Oud Alezan. I love it. I really, really love that fragrance. And for me, it smells great on skin. So that's why I'm ranking it here at number one. I'm not saying number two doesn't smell great on skin. I just love the way the rose shines on Oud Alezan. Anyway, those are the 6 rose fragrances that I'm talking about today. Let me know your thoughts on these fragrances, if you've gotten your noses on them. And if you haven't, which one sounds great to you? Add a comment so I can find out. Either way, guys, if you're a mom, happy Mother's Day, or happy Mother's Day to your mom or mothers. And happy Mother's Day to my mom as well. But if you have any questions or comments, guys, add a comment below. Let me know what you're asking. Otherwise, please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.